Transmitting to you from Old Heart Radio.
Prepare to have your bones chilled and your hairs raised. It's the WacArnold's Brothers Podcast.
Welcome home.
What's up?
Oh God, it's true. Once again, David, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
It's the WacArnold's again.
So real quick disclaimer, we've been talking about shitty movies, and this is one of those movies that it's like people don't consider this a shitty movie,
Yeah. When picking this movie, for some reason in my head, I was just like, maybe this is aged kind of funky,
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be sort of like laugh worthy. But
there were some laughable parts, but
totally. But it definitely, I will say, it holds up still, and it's especially. We'll talk about it later, but it definitely wasn't. It's not the same category as the other movies we've talked about so far.
Right.
Yeah, The Howling is, like a pinnacle, I guess, of werewolf movies.
Yeah,
it's like one of the. What else would you consider like a top werewolf movie?
Well, the same year that The Howling came out, American Werewolf in London came out, so that's
oh yeah.
If you think about the most popular or most beloved werewolf movie, that's probably one of them.
Definitely. I mean, for me, for sure, I like that movie. I like I'm just, when it comes to werewolf movies, for me, it's a lot about the transformation scene. You have to have that one good like epic transformation.
Yeah.
American Werewolf in London definitely covered that, and it was interesting because throughout this movie I kept wondering if we were gonna get it. You kept getting
teased
with certain things, but it definitely gets there. But both those movies came out in 1981, you say, and that's just a hot year for werewolf movies,
Yeah.
But because they both hold up. I'd say this.
And then
what else would you consider like a kind of top?
I
mean,
I haven't, as far as, I've seen a plethora of zombie and vampire. I really haven't seen that many werewolf movies. There's I can't think of the name, but there was another one in the 80s that was really interesting. And then in the early 2000s, I think it was one of Wes Craven's not good movies, but it was
Cursed.
Yeah, with Jesse Eisenberg. Oh,
yeah, and Christina Ricci.
Silver Bullet's a good one. So based on a Stephen King short story, and it has
Gary Busey.
Gary Busey in it. Yeah.
I watched that last year, and I was
that one's awesome.
That one is cool. Man, I think you're kind of right. When racking my brain about werewolf movies, I there's not a whole bunch that jump out. I saw. I recently watched an old trailer for this movie called Wolfen.
That's what I'm thinking about. Yeah.
Oh,
that's
okay.
Another
Well, that's what it was. We'll probably have to do a pod on that one because that one looked kind of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love werewolf, the idea of the werewolf. But it's just I've never really seen a ton of solid stuff. You think of the Universal.
Exactly. Wolfman, yeah.
And until 1981, I don't think there was probably another really solid werewolf story. So that's kind of interesting, man.
And then the way I heard of this movie is, so one of my favorite horror movies of all time is Scream.
Oh,
so
God, yeah, dude.
The lady that plays Karen in this movie, her name's Dee Wallace, and she's most famous for E.T. But she's been in Gremlin. She's been in a couple of Joe Dante movies like Gremlins and Small Soldiers. But anyway, there's this part in Scream where Stu, who is Jamie Kennedy's character, he's the horror buff, and he works at the movie. He works at a Blockbuster or whatever. But there's a scene where he's in the movie store and this lady comes up and she's like, what's that werewolf movie with the mom from E.T.? And he's like, oh, the Howling, it's over there. So that's how I learned about the Howling. But
Nice.
this is, yeah.
It was always, for me, it was always like, I think I might have like caught like a sequel, because there's numerous sequels.
There's like 7 sequels, yeah.
And it felt really out of context, but I knew the name, like the Howling, and so that's why I remember watching it. But yeah, like this was probably like, I don't know, this is probably like the first like time I've really sat there and like really paid attention, if anything. And I don't know, yeah, it's kind of an interesting movie. It throws you right into this like weird plot line though. Like I like it just jumps right into Dee Wallace's character Karen on this like, I don't know, like sting operation,
yeah.
to like get this, I don't know, creepy dude named it's Eddie, right? Like
Eddie Quist, yeah.
Eddie
He's like
Quist,
a serial killer or something.
who's like calling her and being like, "Hey, Karen, I want you to go to this phone booth or whatever." And then she goes to the phone booth and with a smiley face sticker.
Yeah, which we see later. Yeah.
Yeah, and anyway, she's on this little sting, and she's going about, and you find that she's kind of rigged to, the police investigators and whatnot. But Eddie directs her to go to this like porno shop, basically, which is really seedy. And like I don't know if that was like just like the staging that they ended up and the lighting that they ended up with, or if they just walked in and was like, this is the one that'll work.
This is the place. Yeah.
But it definitely was seedy looking, and she looked creeped the hell out when she was in there. She, like, I don't know, like she was projecting, like she wasn't really, her character wasn't really like, I don't know, saying much in this, like when she was walking through that store, but like you could tell like her face was just like,
she's like hesitant to be there. Yeah.
And so she goes and ends up in a
like a booth.
Yeah, one of those like jerk off booths, dude.
Yeah. And it's crazy that like there was a time when those were super duper popular,
What a weird way to like spend your time. Like, yeah, I'm just gonna go down to the porn shop and just wank one out. Like,
yeah, really.
Like, I wonder if anybody's there right now. Like,
it's just
what a weird thing. But yeah, like, and so like she ends up in one of those booths at Eddie's direction, who creepily like puts on some sort of movie and sneaks in behind
disturbing.
her. It's really disturbing, and ends up like this whole sequence leads to Karen having a blackout where she can't fully remember what really happened. She didn't really if she saw Eddie's face or not.
She can't remember. I love how the cops just run in, and before even opening the booth or anything, they just start fucking shooting. One of the guy even makes a line who's like, well, you could think Quick Draw McGraw here, but yeah, it's like that would never happen because they didn't even they just start shooting like.
Yeah,
they just somehow managed.
The porn shop,
yeah,
bang it up.
And somehow Eddie's the only one that gets shot. But yeah, she comes out and they basically she's suffering from amnesia and she can't remember anything and has nightmares about it.
Yeah, and thus leading her into like a bit of therapy with the doctor.
Yeah, Dr. George Miller. Yeah,
George. And George, who then recommends that she go up to this sort of camp where she can relax and maybe have some
the colony. Yeah,
the colony.
So, and then while this is
so
going
ominous anyway.
Yeah,
man. Like,
yeah, it's creepy. And then so kind of while this is all going on, there's also multiple scenes where it shows these two characters and they don't say their name until way later. But they're kind of investigating Eddie and everything that's going. Their names are Terry and Charles, and first they go to his apartment and they notice all these weird kind of creepy pictures of hairy looking people and all these news articles about because it's like
just like killings and like
weird
stuff.
Yeah.
They find that picture that looks like he maybe drew it of like a landscape.
Yeah.
Shit like that, which was just like, yeah, like it's interesting because you're right. Like they don't fully like address these characters for a second, but they just show them like doing this investigation.
Yeah.
And it's really, that was one of the most interesting parts about like the build up to the ending of this movie was just like what they were up to in a lot of ways. And
but they get to the colony and it's like there's all these weird kind of kooky characters that are there, you know.
Yeah. And it's Karen and her husband Bill. Yeah. And they start getting introduced to some of the other people at the colony. There's like immediately this old guy who like makes some sort of comment about losing his teeth.
Yeah, and he like wants to like kill himself in a fire.
Yeah, it was like gnarly, dude. It got
we get introduced to Marcia, who's like an nymphomaniac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's wild and she has, animal furs or whatever.
Yeah, she's just
yeah, but what was it? They make this like interesting comment with like with Bill's character a few times throughout this kind of like the sequence and sort of like the first few moments in the colony, where he keeps saying like, "Oh, I try to stay away from meat." Yeah.
And, he's like a vegetarian or whatever.
Yeah. And it was very like, like he's like this is gonna lead to somewhere. And
totally.
And it was just kind of interesting because I was just like, he like it's like something that pops up I think 2 maybe 3 times, and so I thought it was like they're really like reinforcing things to come, which I think is kind of interesting. But I don't know, like at first, like if watching this movie not knowing it was full on like a werewolf movie, like this at this point could be like a movie about like they go up to this colony and some slasher shows up, like Marcia could be actually fucking crazy and she's like like gonna murder you in your sleep or something, and so
totally.
And that mystery kind of does continue a bit, and that's why like the investigation that happens on the side really kind of ramps up like your other thoughts. Like I don't know, it was just kind of interesting because
they end up going to the morgue, and Eddie's body is missing, and there's like these like I forget what the term is for the, where they put your body. You're like in a shelving unit or whatever, but there's like scratches on the door and he's just missing.
Yeah. And, like, when they go, at one point they go to like that bookstore.
Yeah. With the Dick Miller alert. Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. I was like, oh, I've seen that face before.
Yeah.
But yeah, and they learn a little more particularly about werewolves. In this scene.
They get some books and they
get some books, crack an egg of knowledge. They learn that the dude has some silver bullets, and then they kind of spell out like things like like how a werewolf can seem dead but then come back to life, basically, or like like stuff like that, and thusly like that mystery with Eddie, you're kind of like, oh shit, dude.
So like shortly after this, one of the first kind of important scenes happen where Bill goes hunting with all these guys and he kills a rabbit. He brings it to Marcia and she tries hitting on him and he rejects her, but as he's walking home he gets attacked. But he gets scratched, but he doesn't really get a good look at what it is.
And so he's kind of like he stumbles back to their lodge and he just kind of gets bandaged up, right? And then thinking like he just got attacked by some sort of wild animal, like fuck.
And this is when Karen calls, and this is when you learn their names. Karen calls her friend Terry. And she ends up coming up to the colony herself and leaves her boyfriend Charles behind at this point.
Yeah, because Charles, I can't remember what he was doing, but it was like, well, wasn't it like that Karen wants to get, that happens later. I think Karen wants to get picked up from the colony. But because it's like really soon after Bill gets attacked by that animal that he first experiences some like urges.
He's like, he eats meat. Yeah.
Of like animalistic urges.
There you go. Yeah.
And it's like, it's just like at this point it's just like a matter of time before you start seeing some sort of werewolf action.
Something's gonna happen.
But yeah, like it's what, like I can't remember what leads Bill. Eventually, there's like a nighttime scene, and Bill gets kind of lured out into the woods.
And him and Marsha, like, she just walks up and starts taking her clothes off, essentially.
Yeah, she's got these wild eyes, man, and she walks up. There's a fire happening, I believe, or something like that.
Yeah,
and they start basically there's been this like build up to her trying to sleep with Bill, and all of a sudden they start going for it. But the crazy thing is you start seeing these like this slow transformation into these like these hairy beasts, and it's actually kind of cool, man. Because
as they're fucking
they're transforming,
but it doesn't show the full transformation yet. They're kind of like a quarter of the way there. They
fucking tease you. They have that in store, and but it was a really interesting scene, and you obviously know that like now Bill is kind of like he's kind of on his own different path at this point. Like I don't think he's really with Karen on Karen's side in this storyline anymore,
Right. So it's like the next day, and Terry's there, and she's walking through the woods, and she sees this landscape and links it to the picture that she found of Eddie. And then she ends up investigating more and comes across this cabin, and it's kind of has some of the same stuff that was in Eddie's apartment. Weird pictures and a smiley face sticker. She ends up getting attacked, and it's the first time you see like a full-blown werewolf. It's pretty cool.
Well, and like the honestly the werewolf design I think is really fucking fantastic. Like the creature.
Rob Bottin, he was like really famous for The Thing, but he's amazing.
Dude, Rob Bottin,
especially because in this scene, like she ends up cutting off the werewolf's arm, and there's this really cool effect scene where it's pulsating and it turns like back into a human hand. It's really well done.
Like my jaw was actually kind of open during that because I just thought it would look so fucking cool. It was gnarly, but also you're just like fascinated by it, and then like the way they pull it off was just, I don't know, it just looked fantastic. It looked really awesome, and that was like again, like that was one of the things that I really appreciated overall about this movie, was like they took the time to like, I think they knew what was needed in a werewolf movie, and that's like, you make anything that has to do with the beasts like look really fucking solid. Like the storyline was it's a very slow paced storyline.
It is.
But once they start like ramping up here at the end, it's actually really cool. So that happens, and I don't at this point you at least I don't know if you did, but I assumed that was what's her face, Marsha, because I didn't think that there was like other werewolves fully at the colony,
Right.
And so that's the other thing that's kind of sort of lingering in your head is like either who is this or like like how many are there? Anyway, so like what happens shortly after that? It's
so she ends up she goes to the doctor's office, and she calls Charles, and as they're talking, she's looking for files on Quinn, but as that happens, a werewolf attacks again, and he fucking kills her.
And this time, like, so she's in the doctor's office, she's rifling through the files, and she's calling to get him to come up there and pick him and Karen up, because Karen is also like, there's some fucking shit, I'm out of this fucking place. And that werewolf,
or sorry, Chris, not Charles, but
Chris, okay.
And then it shows him like grabbing he goes and gets those silver bullets and starts heading up there too.
The guy's like, oh, I need to weigh those. But like the werewolf, like the werewolves in this, it's really interesting the way they do it, because they're not just like fully, like all of a sudden there and just like, slashing them up. Like they sort of like, I mean, they do go for him, but like their victims, but there's like, they're also like kind of, you can tell these characters are in control a little bit of their beast forms. I'm just
Yeah,
talking
and
about it like it's so real.
It shows that like in the next scene, because Karen comes and finds her friend's dead body, and then you see Eddie, this is the reveal where you find out that Eddie's still alive.
Yeah.
And he's like like you said, he's part human. He kind of looks zombified, but it does show that he has like some control over it, like you said, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I just thought that was awesome. And then like, dude, his transformation.
Yeah.
Was so epic, man. Like,
he pulls a bullet out of his head and
like it was just wild, like, you know, like his body starts pulsating, and then like, you know, like
it's drawn out.
Yeah, they didn't rush it. They didn't take you know, they didn't like, they showed you like transformations on almost like on most body parts, I think, and the face, dude, like the whole facial like transformation.
Could you imagine how painful that would be? His
head, oh god, dude. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, okay, if you had to be a vampire or a werewolf, what would you choose?
Well, that's like, I've always like, since I was a kid, I always thought it'd be cool to be a vampire. So
fair enough. I've always thought it'd be cool to be a werewolf.
Fair. Okay. Yeah. There you go.
But watching transformation sequences always makes me be like, I don't want to go through that.
Yeah, dude, it looks so like how their face changes, and then the big fucking, you know, wolf jaw comes at like it, dude, it looks excruciating.
It's gnarly, and that's like that's what I loved about his, like, Eddie's face. Like, it looks like you know, they like it grows longer at one point, and starts like protruding out, and like, again, like you were saying, they take their time with this transformation.
It's cool.
It was really cool.
Because I wonder. I just at that time, you know, like these days, like we talked about this a lot, but these days it would be CGI and it would probably look kind of corny. But back then with those practical, if like I can only imagine how long it took to film that sequence and how much time was spent doing like it's a testament to how amazing practical effects are.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Like, I think about that often with watching these movies too. It's just like, you know, like the effort and the actual like time and like, you know, that goes into each one of these. I'm not saying like, you know, computer designers don't do that, but they, you know, totally different types of things.
Yeah.
After,
I just want to say that, like, for people that are listening, like, we're at a point now where it's like 40 minutes in, and everything else that happens after this is like at a breakneck speed, but it is super slow up into this point where they're kind of establishing who these characters are and some of the mythology, and, you know, so we've kind of skipped ahead past some of the more slower scenes.
Yeah, they really take some time to like build up like basic understanding of werewolf mythos and stuff like that, you know. And like, yeah, it is like, it's kind of slow paced, but as soon as this office scene hits, I'd say,
it's like,
and you know, so Chris shows up to the office with rifle in hand. He's got some silver bullets on him, and he immediately has a confrontation with Eddie, right? But
before that happens, like, Karen throws a vial of acid in Eddie's face.
Oh my god, dude, that's right. I forgot about the fucking acid.
And she runs off, but she gets kind of like members of the colony kind of like grab her and take her to this cabin. And, you know, we learn more here about the grand scheme of everything going on there. But yeah, Chris shows up, like you said.
I just forgot that fucking acid, dude. Oh my god.
But yeah,
acid in the face would suck, by the way.
That would be so.
But what happened? So like, yeah, they have like a confrontation, Chris and Eddie, after that whole instance. And you're right, like they take Karen away to like a barn or like a bunker or something, like, and and by this time it seems like I think Eddie is back out of his like beast form really when Chris arrives, and so they have this kind of like, I mean, he looks fucked up. Don't get me wrong. He looks fucked up, but he's just not like a full werewolf anymore.
Well, because Chris ends up killing him, but so Karen's at the cabin, and the doctor basically starts explaining that, you know, this colony is a place where everyone there is a vampire, and he's trying to, werewolf, and he's trying to take like a psychological approach to them and get them to not always give in to their primal urges, and kind of he's trying to establish that, like, let's get some more people here, let's get them werewolf, and let's slowly do this rather than just going out in the world and just be savages and killing everybody that we come across.
Yeah. And it seems like that method's kind of been like holding the colony together for a while, but like clearly in this sequence you sort of like you learn that that's kind of not the case. There's it's which is kind of interesting. Like I thought that, like, in general, that's a really interesting idea.
It is.
Like we're all like let's just live off the grid over here every now and then, we'll just invite some people up to either make werewolves or fucking eat
them. Exactly. Yeah, totally.
But I mean, and that's what another thing I liked just in general about this movie was that this all happens like you were saying, like the slow kind of build up, and then like all of a sudden you just get bombarded with like not only awesome practical effects, but then like the story really starts like coming out. Because
Chris kills Eddie, and then goes and finds Karen basically being held hostage, and this is when it just gets bonkers.
Yeah,
because then it's shown everybody's they all start changing, and it's really cool.
You finally see like the one guy who like got his arm chopped off.
Yeah,
it's just one of the random side characters.
Yeah,
and so you're like, damn, dude, like legit everybody's a fucking werewolf up
and
here.
they even kill the doctor. They're like
straight.
They're basically like, we're tired of being subdued essentially, and it's time for us to give in to our who we are.
And there's like the whole sequence where like they kind of starts trying to step up to Chris, as he like is like trying to save Karen, and I thought it was just kind of funny because I kept watching it being like, no, those fuckers know he has silver bullets. And
and they don't even believe him. They're like, yeah, I'm sure.
And so he takes out like one.
Yeah.
He takes out the doc, right? Or is it the other werewolves? I can't remember.
The other werewolves take out the doc, but in front of everybody else, he kills two of them pretty much back to back, and that's when they're like, "Oh shit!"
No, fucking, he's serious. And like during all this, I can't remember this. It's like Karen at some point gets like wounded.
Well, this is a little later. She does.
A little later. Yeah.
She does.
So what happens? Like, what happens right after the point where Chris knocks down a couple of them?
Well, basically, so he knocks down a couple of them, and then they barricade them into the barn, and they start lighting the barn on fire. Which, I mean, it kills a good chunk of them, but not all of them. Yeah. And so they try to we're rushing. This is probably going to be the quickest podcast because we're kind of rushing through it. And I don't know if we're doing it justice, but so they leave in the car, but they come across the sheriff from earlier, who's also a vampire, and tries to stop them. And doing so, it lets some other werewolves catch up. There's a cool sequence where this seems to be a running theme, but where a car blows up.
I love those kind of sequences though, because they're so. I don't know. The Simpsons made fun of it, and it just immortally made it like endearing.
Yeah.
But it's like the whole sheriff sequence. It's like they end up like stealing his car, right?
Yes, exactly. And that's and then exactly. What were you gonna say though?
Oh, and which I was just like. I kind of thought maybe like even the sheriff was in on it like early on, when
it's kind of creepy,
when it was like backwoods sheriffs. He's just like he's down with the sickness, But he's he's still like it was just like shocking that he was an actual like werewolf and stuff too. Like that was like that. I mean, I just thought that was like a really. I don't know. I just thought it was a really good idea to like make make all the characters. All the characters you got introduced to.
He was cool too because he was also not like a full-blown vampire. You could see that he had these big, sharp fangs like jutting out of his mouth, but he had a mainly like human look to him.
Yeah.
But yeah,
they look savage just in general.
They
Like
did.
anytime you saw like one of them, like their teeth, like the hair looked wild and long. It was just, I don't know, it was just really fucking awesome. Like,
but yeah, so they steal his car, and as they're fleeing, that's when she gets bitten on the shoulder.
yeah,
And Chris kills the werewolf, and we find out that it was Bill. He's like, he reverts to human form in the backseat of the car, which is pretty
that's
sad.
right. Bill. I mean, I don't know if I was really that attached to Bill.
No.
You know, he kind of seemed. I mean, there's that whole sequence where he smacks Karen because
He like gaslights her too, you know.
And it's just like this fucking guy, dude. But
Because she sees scratches on his back, and he's like, "Oh no, those were like from the attack." And she's like, "They weren't there the night before." And yeah, he just fucking slaps her.
But you're right. Like it's just like it's just this interesting like note because it's just all, you know, like it adds a sort of personal touch to that sequence because you're just like, you know, yeah, they got him, not Karen, but like the werewolves. They got to Bill for sure.
Because he's like the weaker, yeah.
But you know, like I thought it was gonna leave off of there, where it was like, you know, Karen has this wound on her, you know, and you know, that might spill over into something else, or like, you know, leave you on that note of like, what happened to her? But what happened at the very end of this movie was so fucking cool to me.
Yeah.
I was like, that is fucking
I didn't see it coming.
Not at all, man. So Karen gets, it's, you know, a little like sometime after this ordeal, and Karen's presumably like back on the job.
Yep.
And they're doing this like report, this like segment, and she just, you know, starts going off script. It starts talking about how there's, you know, actually werewolves.
There's this secret society of, you know, this criminal underbelly and all this shit. Yeah.
And then it's just like, and this is what I was just like, oh my god, this is gonna happen. Like and then you know, she's just like, to make you believe, like, bah, and she just, you know, they allude to her like through showing other people's reactions. They allude to her like transforming on air.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that is so badass.
And you know what I thought was cool about that is, like, in most werewolf movies, regardless of their sex, they look the same. But it was cool how, you know, her werewolf form looked like feminine, you know.
Yeah, you could like, well, and that, yeah, they like kind of catered it to like the you know, the character, which I thought was really cool. Sometimes they do kind of look a little more like generic.
Yeah, it's a way to put it. Not that it's a bad thing, but
no, but yeah, I thought that was really cool, man. And like, I just thought that moment was really awesome because it was a shocking moment, like, just because, like, I don't know, I just had not seen that, you know, and like that kind of job, that kind of exposing moment.
Yeah, and then Chris shoots her and with a silver bullet and kills her, and then it's like, you know, it shows all these different groups of people watching, and they think it's fucking fake. They're like, oh, you know, special effects these days. Like, I wonder how they pulled that off. It's like, what?
Oh my god. Yeah, it's like, believe people. Yeah,
But the movie does end on a cool note after that.
Just in general, man, like, I kept wondering, I don't know, like, I kept wondering how the sequels got built up, and you definitely note like that characters like Marcia are, you know,
still
like,
alive.
They're still alive. They're still, you know.
I never seen the second one, but it's called like it's like either my sister or my stepsister's a werewolf or something like that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just cool how it ends, and she's at a bar, and she orders a burger, and she's like, they're like, how do you want it? And she's like, rare, and then she's smiling into the screen. It's pretty cool.
It is, man, because it's a direct nod to like the fact that it's continuing.
Yeah.
I have no idea if they actually had sequels in mind, but it was just such a great, you know, just for like the idea of the storyline, you know, like the colony's still out there, the society's still out there. Yeah, what a cool moment. It
was just, you know, overall, it's just a well done movie, and I wonder if Joe Dante at the time knew, like, when he was making this movie, I wonder if he knew that it would be so, like, well received that it would lead to his big push, you know, in the movie making scene, and landing stuff like Gremlins and becoming like a bigger player. Like, I wonder, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, yeah, like, did he know that this was the launch, like
The launch pad, yeah,
launching pad or what? Yeah, I mean, because there's definitively like those directors that have like that movie, you know, where it's like, you know, you can see them like at the beginning of their career, perhaps like developing their style, and then like, oh, boom, like their style hits. Like, you knew that this was a Joe Dante movie because of the way the characters were lit, the way like certain scenes had, like, I mean, a lot of it for me was lighting. Like, a lot of the lighting in certain scenes like reminded me of, for instance, Gremlins, which you saw later on, where it was like, you know, there'd be like, I don't know how to describe it exactly, but you could tell like that there was like like very distinct style. And like, I think it's kind of fun to watch directors as they, like, you know, the first couple works maybe hit or miss, and then like they have that one like this, the Howling, where it's like all of a sudden, boom, Joe Dante is here. Like, what's next from him? He goes on to do nothing but like
gets this big budget movie, that you know is still remember. You know, Gremlins is one of those movies where, regardless if you like the sequel or not, the first one is just one of those iconic movies where, to this day, like, even if you haven't seen the movie, you know about Gizmo. Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. And oh, for sure, man. That movie has like, I could watch it. I
love that movie
anytime. Really, it's just like, it's so much fun.
It's one of my favorite Christmas movies.
Absolutely, dude. I love watching it around the holidays. Like, it's it's the Howling is like, it's one I do kind of want to watch just because of how kind of intriguing the storyline was.
Yeah, I wonder how the sequels play out.
I do kind of want to see like how they connect, you know. That'd be kind of interesting. I doubt that they're going to be as performed as well, you know.
Right.
Like
the
actors and the characters that were featured in this movie were like ranged from like very mildly interesting to like really like intense. Like, anytime they're on this, like in certain scenes, like Marsha, definitely like her presence was always weird in a scene because you just didn't, it was like a wild card. You didn't know what she was like, her character was gonna do.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, in a way.
And then,
yeah.
Well, another thing about it is like the 80s was a time in horror where, you know, this person would direct the first one and then there'd be a string of sequels and it'd just be different directors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's like rare occasions where it'd be the same director, but for the most part, it's always someone else. So it's like, you know, it's not going to have the same, you know.
Yeah, it won't have the Joe Dante feel.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that's why it's like, for me, particularly sequels, it's really important to see like how they maintain this, like the connecting story, because like, yeah, like you could immediately start a movie with a different director and it like visually it'll look weird, like the pacing might be different, you know.
I want to say Scream is the only horror franchise I can think of where, so there's a fifth one coming out, and obviously Wes Craven's dead, but he directed all four of them, and that's like super rare. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's one of the things I like about that franchise. It was that it was, you know,
I love that franchise.
Same, dude, same. Scream is like one of my,
that first,
when you're compiling movies to watch during the Halloween season, like Scream is always on there. Scream 2 is on there. Scream 3 is on there. Like,
I just remember being so blown away with Scream the first time I saw it. Like, it's such an amazing, it's so great.
Yeah. And I will say this, without Scream, we wouldn't ever have gotten the first Scary movie either. and the first Scary movie, and arguably the second one, but definitely
they're
the first
hilarious.
Are fucking on, dude. Like, they're so good still.
They are. They're hilarious. Oh, I thought of another good werewolf, Michael Jackson's Thriller, where he has that, and he's a zombie too, but at the beginning they're at the theater and they're watching a werewolf movie, where he's the character in the movie and he has a werewolf transformation, and it's fantastic too.
Fair enough. Yeah. Does Teen Wolf count?
Yeah. Yeah. So does like
Not
You
the
ever
MTV
seen-
show?
you ever see? Oh God. Have you ever seen a movie called The Monster Squad?
Oh, dude, I love that movie.
Yeah,
It's such a
Wolfman's in
campy,
it, yeah.
fun movie, man.
It's great.
The Monster Squad. There's this that reminds me. There's this other random movie that I keep like floating. It keeps floating by me when I scroll for horror movies. It's called Saturday the
Saturday the 14th. Yeah.
and that looks to me like it has similar feels as like Monster Squad, maybe. You know.
It's like it's a parody of horror movies, and
Oh, okay.
so there's some funny stuff in that movie, and there is some cool like creature design, but yeah, it's not as well known as other,
Fair enough.
obviously scary movies. When you think of a horror parody, you're gonna think of Scary Movie.
Yeah, this is truth. I mean, like those movies are so great. Oh man. Yeah. I don't know. Like overall, I just I was still just more impressed with the Howling than I was like gawking at it. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah.
It holds up well.
It was a good watch. But I don't know. There you go. I want the next time I suggest a werewolf movie, it's gonna be one that we can pick apart better, because this one was just really enjoyable.
Yeah, there's really nothing there's not too many bad things. Any movie that has Dick Miller in it, you know what I mean? Cool.
yeah. All right. I think. Well, hey. I mean, honestly, those. I think we should leave the Howling there. Hot Dogs, I think, should watch it for sure.
Yeah, it's a classic.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we got. I don't know. Like that's probably it for that I got for that. You got any last thoughts on werewolves, the Howling,
No.
in a colony?
But I will say that we already have picked our choice for the next movie we're gonna review, and we'll talk more about it then. But it's an Italian horror movie, which I thought was filmed in the 70s, but it wasn't. And it's called Abracadabra, and we're gonna have fun with that one.